Mr. Deputy President, biodiversity offsets are one of the biggest scams in New South Wales. It's a sleight of hand trick that leads to clearing of endangered and critical habitat, all with a big green tick of approval from the government. And the trick goes like this. Let's say you have two pieces of similar critically endangered ecological communities. The proponent of a development destroys one of these and goes looking for the other to claim for an offset. Far from being a win for the environment, the end result is the destruction of critical habitat and a net loss of biodiversity. Moreover, it's not actually possible to assure that biodiversity in two locations is the same or equivalent in quality. Biodiversity offsets are often not even established before the environment is ruined. And in fact, it could take hundreds of years before an offset replaces a destroyed ecosystem, if ever. And often enforcement and monitoring of offsets falls by the wayside. Indeed, big business and developers are becoming creative with offsets, and there does not seem to be any oversight by the state or federal governments. Market-based processes, Mr. Deputy President, and trading mechanisms such as offsets and biobanking that trade off high conservation areas for development inevitably result in biodiversity losses that are irreplaceable. Just last week, and shamefully on Threatened Species Day, we saw the bulldozing of 1.4 hectares of the critically endangered Cooks River Castlereagh Ironbark Forest to make way for a parking area for the WestConnex toll road. And the New South Wales Environment Minister called this, and I quote, a classic example of biodiversity protection working. God help us all, and especially threatened species, when biodiversity protection in this state doesn't work. The planning system is so broken that offsets for the WestConnex were not even required to be secured before the Cooks River Castlereagh Ironbark Forest was destroyed. They only needed to be identified. This ironbark forest is classed as an endangered ecological community in New South Wales and is critically endangered under Commonwealth law. In 2008, the then Department of Environment and Climate Change stated that Cooks River Castlereagh Ironbark Forest is one of the most threatened ecological communities in Australia, with less than 7% of its pre-1788 distribution remaining. And now, thanks to the magic of offsets, we have even less. This destruction occurred under the New South Wales Biodiversity Offsets Policy for major projects, which is perhaps the worst biodiversity offsetting policy I have seen. It is a get-out-of-jail-free card for developers and miners and a death sentence for the environment. This pathetic approach will be rolled out to the entire state under the government's proposed land management reforms. For the first time, proponents can now satisfy offsetting obligations in their consent conditions by paying into a new biodiversity conservation fund, which places the onus of locating equivalent offsets on the proposed Biodiversity Conservation Trust, a public organization. Even if the trust is unable to locate an equivalent offset, clearing can still take place regardless, resulting in biodiversity loss. In short, even if an area cannot be offset, it can still be destroyed simply by paying into a fund. If the proposed legislation passes, practically nowhere in the state except national parks will be safe from the chainsaws that the Baird government unleashes. Mr. Deputy President, the biodiversity reforms that are being proposed by this government are a joke. But as our state tears down trees and chops down the habitat of the powerful owl for putting parking lots, no one is laughing.